It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. We're coming to you from deep in the heart of the great state of Texas. That would be from Big D, Big Dallas, Texas. I'm your host, Alex Guthrie. This is a show where there's no sports, no politics, and no mean people. That's why we're here, to make you smile. We have a fantastic show today. We have two new guests. We have Tom Ferret. He is with Tamlin Building Products right here in Texas. And we're going to talk about Tamlin in the second segment. In the first segment, we have the lovely Delia Pierce with Lemongrass Construction out of Fairhope, Alabama. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Things have changed dramatically in the last 18 months. I don't have to tell anybody that. That's like old news, but it is relevant to all of us around the country. And I've been interviewing people from all over the country, primarily contractors and manufacturers, and discussing how things have changed. And this is to sort of give us all sort of a baseline of how our world is. So if you're noticing all these wild changes in your business or your clients, is it just you or is it the whole world? It's kind of the whole world. Today's guest, Delia Pierce of Lemongrass Construction in Fairhope, Alabama, is our first guest. Good morning. How are you? We got to get your mic on.
There we go.
There we are. There we are.
Good morning.
Good morning again. How are you doing?
I'm great.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for taking time for us today.
Thank you.
So tell us about your business. You're a remodeling contractor and a new home contractor?
Yes, I have been building since 1998, 97, 98, and it was primarily new construction for many years, but then when things started to crash in the 2006, 7, 8, 9,
Right.
I had to learn to love remodeling too. So
Yeah.
and then during the time of COVID, there was a lot of people that were at their homes looking at everything that they wanted to change. So we got a lot of calls during that time.
World kind of changed, didn't it?
Yes.
I mean, we went from a major housing boom, and if you were a new builder, particularly when you started, so you started in 98, and you're kind of starting at the beginning of the big ramp up to 2006. So you had, 7, 8 years of just blow and go,
Yes.
and learning your business, and then bam, hit you right in the forehead like a hammer, doesn't it?
It was an interesting time, but I would not take the learning experience
Yeah.
away from anything. I just
But
learned a lot.
as with lots of new home builders, and particularly startups, you have to learn to be flexible. And builders often, almost always, end up in the remodeling market at some point when things slow down, because that's where the market takes you.
Right. Yes.
How was that adjustment for you?
It really was, I mean, not hard. It's a different animal for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts in both processes, but undoing and redoing is different than starting from scratch. So it's really just getting kind of that system in place where you know the differences and you're prepared for the differences. There's also some contractors that just subcontractors that will not do remodels or don't want to do remodels.
Well,
So
you have a completely different mindset when you go from a new home, where you're following instructions to having no instructions,
right,
essentially.
right, yeah,
And I always noticed,
amen.
yeah, I couldn't take, and I've been remodeling for, technically 40 years. It's certainly 45. And I always noticed that like you said, certain vendors are just not geared up for the remodeling, the challenges of remodeling, and the sort of flexibility you have to have. A lot of people they just want to look at the print and do what it says, and that's it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
And they don't like redoing. It's a
no.
totally different mindset. And as a contractor, that's a heck of an adjustment for you to have to make in your business.
Hmm. Yeah, I have said for years, if you can't be flexible, you should not be in this business,
Yeah,
because that is very much something that we have to learn to do.
right.
And, um, and if you look at it from the standpoint of what's better for the homeowner or what's better for, you know, the end result and then future too, um, kind of helps, I guess, reduce the frustration of certain things changing, because then you can think about it, the big picture.
So do you find a big difference between doing a custom build? I'm talking about in how you're dealing with homeowners.
Mhm.
If you're doing a custom build and you're doing a remodel, there are some real parallel things in dealing with the customer. And for me, as being a remodeler all my life, the customer is always, you know, right there in the forefront of everything that I do. So if things are going good with the client, things are going good on the project, but that isn't always the case. There's
Right.
so much stress and so much more in remodeling, but custom building has its own challenges.
Hmm. It does. Um, from the very beginning, I wanted to create an experience for the homeowners that was unique and that did reduce stress and did make it enjoyable, because it can be very stressful. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
part of my mission, I guess, as a contractor, is to create that experience that's different from what you typically hear, the horror stories that you hear.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I walk very closely with them, and we partner together from a budget standpoint, and also just shopping and the things that tend to be overwhelming to them. I try really hard to help with that and guide that process, so they don't have the frustrations that sometimes they
Well, and it's really difficult. And I know that of course, in remodeling, it's just, I always tell them what remodeling is taking on a series of challenges and overcoming them. And
Mhm.
so you have to have sort of a battleship mentality, right? You're
Right,
basically, like I coined a phrase, your house wasn't built to be remodeled. And
right,
anybody that's been through a remodel, including the contractors and the
right.
homeowners, they understand that. That's pretty
Hmm.
much, now, you build new homes too. You don't build them to be remodeled. You build it thinking that sucker's going to be there 50, 60 years from now.
Right, right.
Yeah, right. So coming out of COVID, which I guess we can safely say we've come out of COVID now, and there's been a lot of change in the way all of us are living our lives and how we're kind of living our day-to-day lives.
Mhm.
What kind of changes have you seen in your clients that would sort of is a big change in your having to deal with them?
Um, well, people are working from home, so we're setting up home offices and trying to accommodate that. Um, I mean, a few years ago, prior to COVID. I built a home for a couple who worked from home and lived right next door to the new home that I was building, and
Mm-hmm.
we're still friends. So I'm used to, I was kind of already used to them being around
They live
and
next door to you?
well, no, to the job site
Oh,
where I was. So their new home was right next to the home they were
oh
currently
no.
and they both worked at home. So, but it was great. It was really great. And so that it didn't scare me, I guess, or it doesn't bother me that maybe some homeowners are more available or
Right.
have been more available during this time because they were not in the office. But so anyway,
Well,
it's
that's an adjustment as a home builder, as a new home builder, where you're just sort of in charge of everything and you're out there calling the shots all day and you're not having anybody looking over your shoulder. You're just getting it done. And then in a remodel, you have a client that's literally standing next to your side saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Is it going to stay in the budget? When do we get it? And you're like, would you just go to work?
fortunately, and maybe the way that I have done things is different than some, but it's been such an open book
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning with me, and I do it that way because it does build trust. It does help them
That's true.
secure and feel like they're being taken care of, and there's no surprises, because the worst thing in the world is for us to get to the end, or even after having to do something that wasn't unexpected. I try to prepare them so that they're not just hit with an invoice, that
Yeah,
they're not.
I listen, I know that, I know, and I fight that battle. I fight that battle with you. I
Yeah,
feel your pain. It's hard to I always tell them, I can't control what other people do as much
right.
as I would like to, but sometimes things don't go the way we want them to go, and sometimes they go perfect.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mixed bag. You have to accept it all. So lead generation really changed for a lot of us. I've noticed that my calls that I get for just recommendation, just person to person recommendations aren't coming to me as much as like BBB and internet type leads. Are you finding a similar pattern, or do you just go by recommendation?
For the most part, there is still a lot of word of mouth, but
Mm-hmm.
we also have like local social media groups that will people will ask, who locally have you used
Mm-hmm.
for remodeling or new construction, and so some of it comes from that. But yes, a lot of people are doing not more research online, but they're depending more on the internet to do
Some of the
research.
work that they used to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what
it's
I've
still good
noticed as well.
though, but
Now, how do you feel about that? But I've always had sort of a um, mixed reaction to that because I always feel like there's another 30 people on their list.
um, a lot of I don't always know if I'm competing, if you want to call it that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, with other people, but I'm a design build contractor. So when people come to me, typically they've seen that I do design build, which is from concept to completion
Mm-hmm.
is what I call it. So if they want that, and if they want me to walk with them, because we have in-house designers and I aid in the design process too and work with the homeowners as well. So if they want that type of experience, then many times they'll come knowing that that's what they want. Now budget may change things at some point,
Right.
but I kind of have a two-part process as far as the contract goes: the design phase, and then the build. But um,
And so you're sort of, if I'm understanding what you're saying, there's people that are contacting you just because they want that whole service.
right,
I call it the Walmart mentality, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but we have a generation of people that now are one-stop shop.
hmm
They don't want to have to go out and chase things around town or chase people around town or interview an architect, interview a designer, interview a contractor, and then go shopping for fixtures.
Right. Right.
And a lot of it is because they just don't have time. You know, they're
Right.
just, there's, now COVID changed a lot of that, you know, it moved people into the house. So like you say, you're doing probably more offices, you know, they're calling you saying, man, I got to have it all. I was getting a lot of calls about outdoor living areas. People
Yes.
wanted to be able to kind of extend their house out and get a little fresh air every now and then.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And I noticed a whole lot of difference there. Now, are you getting that type of, what, do you get anything more specialized than offices and outdoor living areas?
I don't know that it's necessary. Well, I have a roofing company too, and so
You're a
and we had
busy girl.
well, we had a hurricane too. Hurricane Sally came, and so that part of the business is certainly, or it has been, very, very busy. And so along with the hurricane and damages that people had, we did have some additional things like the outdoor spaces. You know, if I'm going to be doing the roof, or if I'm going to be replacing siding or whatever, why don't I go ahead and get a price for,
Right,
you know?
right.
So there was a lot of that going on. I don't know.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we've talked about a lot on this show in the last 18 months has been things like feng shui and things people are doing inside their homes to make their home more comfortable, whatever that may be. It's not necessarily a type of building or a type of room, but it's more
Right.
subtle things that make them where you've got kids on the computer learning in one room, dad in one room doing his business, mom in a room doing her business.
Yes.
And sometimes, it's not unusual that you would have grandparents as well, or, you know, another arm of the family in there, that where families are sort of clustering because
Right.
of necessity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I have had some of that, and as far as you know, multiple or multifamily,
Multi-generational. Yeah.
multi-generational. But also, I just finished a house for a family. They have 5 children, and we did lockers, basically, a series of lockers in the mudroom. But we also did a desk area that had charging stations and
Cool.
USB outlets for each individual child, because, like you said, I mean, they're doing a lot from home, and then they have more technology, and just those types of changes that were already coming. But yeah, probably COVID made it.
Well,
a
it
little-
definitely pushed it to the forefront, where it used to be sort of a luxury item or a kind of a, hey, while we're at, now it's like, okay, this is like top priority. Everybody's got to charge their laptop and their phone.
Right. Yes. Pools were coming back too. For a long time, I didn't do any pools, and then now all of a sudden, more and more people are wanting pools again.
So they're sort of doing a staycation. They're creating their own little vacation spot in the world. And now, are you doing very many builds outside of the city? Like you're not far. How far are you from Mobile?
About 20 minutes.
So you're kind of outside of the city, but if Mobile's like the rest of us, that's not very far.
Baldwin County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. So we're getting a lot of people coming to Baldwin County, and for good reason. It's a great place. But yeah, there's certainly more. There's a lot of subdivisions, but then there's also more land kind of on the outskirts that, if you can find it, or if you already had it, because a lot of it's been bought up. But if you already had it, then yes, people are kind of ready to get out and have their space.
They're building their vacation homes within driving distance of their main residence. And here in North Texas, it's a huge business. I mean, if you have lake property, or if you go to any of these lakes, and we're surrounded by them, people are building like crazy. I've never seen anything like it, actually. And I wrote a piece the other day, a week or so ago. My observation, there's no research behind it. I'm just not, I'm not that smart. Um, how a lot of these little towns that had just started drying up are all of
Mhm.
a sudden, and I'm in them because
Mhm.
I have a weekend job as well that takes me out there.
Right.
They're actually the people I'm meeting that are starting businesses, owning businesses, and moving out there are all people that are in their 30s, 40s, and they're young people. They're starting businesses, and it's actually reinvigorating a lot of these small towns. And I'm just so thrilled about it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
We're staying
Yeah.
home. Let's talk about one other thing, and I have one last question for you, and that's a little more newsy. Is the lumber, your material cost? I've been having this conversation with lots of builders. How are you feeling about? It seems like things are settling down a little bit, tiny bit. I don't know if you're seeing it yet at your purchase, your point of purchase. Are you seeing any price changes in your
Yes.
material?
Yes. And my lumber salesmen are keeping us kind of up to date weekly, kind of letting us know what's going on. And the last email was it's looking better, but availability is still an issue. So
Uh,
if you see it, get it.
yeah.
Um, so it's one of those things where some of the homeowners that I'm working with are very much concerned and affected by it, and then some definitely don't want to be stupid with the money, but they're not necessarily going to allow that to dictate
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. So it's kind of a mixture of those things. But I will say that since it started dropping a little bit, there's been at least a little bit of an encouraging or motivation from some people that have been kind of standing back a little bit, waiting. They're now coming forward saying, well, I'm seeing that it's dropping, maybe we should go ahead. So
Yeah, it's certainly encouraging news, and what we've just experienced nothing but it seems like dire news for so long. I think you're right. I think it's probably going to help a lot of people kind of feel more comfortable moving forward with it. Some of the builders I've been interviewing are actually having people delay projects. Some of them, 3 or 4 houses have been delayed this year
right.
because people are either can't qualify for the additional cost, don't have the money, or just saying, man, I'm scared.
Mhm.
And I kind of relate it to, and you can relate to this when when you're talking to somebody about remodeling a house and you give them the price and they kind of turn white as a sheet. And then they kind of get up off the floor and they go, well, okay, it's fine, except I don't want to overbuild for the neighborhood. I don't want to
Right.
overbuild, put too much money in my house for a resale down the road. My question is, and I haven't had a realtor on yet that can answer this. I don't know if there is an answer. With these increased prices in housing, it's almost going to benefit the home buyer for these prices to stay up a little bit down the road. I think we're setting a new baseline anyway. I think it'll never go down to what it was. I don't care what they say. It never does. It never has. And it needs to stay up a little bit so that you don't feel like you've overbuilt the neighborhood. I don't know if that
Right.
makes sense or not. I'm not a realtor, but it
Yeah.
makes sense
Well,
to
in
the country boy.
2006, 7, 8, when prices were higher. I mean, I was actually building a personal house in 2006 when it happened, and it was crazy the extra money that went into that
Hmm.
during that time. And so yeah, when prices dropped considerably, and to the extent that they did, a few years later, there is there's no comps,
Right, right,
that
right.
that
Exactly.
makes sense for the people that bought high.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it certainly would be helpful if it didn't
It's kind of
from that.
it's logical. It's logical. Um, I really appreciate you coming on today,
Thank you for
and
having
I
me.
wish you great success. I think that we're all going to come out of this. For a while there, it was looking a little iffy, but it looks like it's going to be good. And thank you so much. And good luck with your business.
you.
And congratulations for surviving all of the business hurricanes as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you
Delia
letting me
Pierce
on.
with Lemongrass Construction. What a nice lady. What a brilliant businesswoman. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got the guest of the next segment, Mr. Tom Ferret. Stay tuned. Hey, don't forget to follow us on all your social media, like us on Facebook, subscribe and share on YouTube, and check us out on all your social media platforms. Don't forget to watch Remodel Revolution on your smart TV, on Texas Weather Tracker TV, on Roku, Android, Apple, and Amazon TV, Sundays at 1 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Imagine this, a totally customized, organized, and beautiful master closet. A home office that fits right into a perfect space. A pantry designed specifically for your storage needs. Imagine your home totally organized. It's time to call the design professionals at Closets by Design DFW and turn your dreams into a reality. With a design staff over 30 strong, Closets by Design works directly with you to create your dream space, and they build it locally, helping support the DFW community. Check them out at dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. Use the promo code RRV to find out about the amazing specials and discounts available. That's dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. And don't forget that promo code RRV. Closets by Design. It's only a few short weeks until we'll be running our air conditioners all day and all night. Hey, it's time to get an HVAC tune-up scheduled. Call my friends at Total Air and Heat in Plano, Texas at 972-881-0020 right now and get on their schedule for a tune-up. Don't wait for the long lines. Get ahead of the crowd. Total Air has been servicing North Dallas and Plano and Richardson areas for over 60 years. Steve and Justin Lawton sell and service Carrier brand heating and cooling systems with Green Speed Intelligence technology. So give them a call at 972-881-0020 or contact them at totalair.com. Well, there's been a long history of problems in the stucco industry, and that is with proper installation of the materials that we had and sort of adapting an old form of finish on the outside of a building to a modern building. In other words, we went from building houses that were primarily stone, waterproof. Maybe they had some brick on the outside, and then they would cover them with stucco. And then they started putting these products on wood sheathed buildings and doing a really bad job of it. So we spent a lot of time in the early 2000s, I did, in the mid 2000s, between now and, let me introduce my guest, Tom Ferret from Tamlin.
Well, thank you, Alex.
Sorry about that.
You were going off on a good tangent.
I was, and I tend to do that. So I used to spend a lot of time replacing EIFS,
Yes.
EIFS to some of you, with hard coat stucco on houses, because people would call me and they'd say, man, and this is in developments that were done in the 80s and 90s, when EIFS, which is it was exterior insulation system.
Finishing system.
Finishing system, thank you, appreciate it. Which was basically styrofoam which would be maybe an inch and a half or 2 inches thick. And they, in the case in the early days, they just glued it right to the OSB, or at the time we'd use plywood.
Absolutely.
And just glue it right to it, and then they'd put some mesh on it, and they'd put some acrylic coating on it, and they'd call it stucco.
They did.
And in the
And
insurance,
also back then, you had lime involved, and it was a little different process than today.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, being the contractor, I just know that the customer would say, "This is what I want. This is the look I want. This is what I want."
Yeah.
And I remember it's always been controversial that I remember. Okay, I always remembered that product as having some issues. So people really didn't like it, but not enough that if I had a client just say, "This is what I want," I'd go, "Okay, fine. There's some don't worry about it." And then I'm in there tearing it all, not the houses I did, thank God, but other houses, I'm tearing this stuff off because they'll say, "I'm noticing a little bit of water coming in around a window," and we go, "Okay, well, we'll tear it off and we'll repair it." And we get in there and look, and the whole wall is
Absolutely. And with the
gone.
new building codes are tighter every 3 years. So consequently, there's less egress for moisture and water to get out. So when something does occur and becomes a problem, they don't know. We don't know sometime for months on end until it's so serious you have health issues on top of it.
So let me properly introduce this gentleman right here. This is Tom Ferret with Tamlin. Is it Building Products? I never could get the straight name.
R.H. Tamlin and Sons Incorporated, actually.
Okay, well, thanks for letting me know. I didn't see that anywhere. Tamlin is they provide products for builders, primarily commercial, but a lot of residential people, because all these products sort of transition both ways. And so Tamlin is very, very innovative in the little things that most of you don't see, the things that are super important, the little pieces of trim that go on underneath the siding that you're putting up, or the corner beads that are going down, or many other things. And you've expanded way, way from that. Now you've got house wrap, you've got it. The stucco is the real thing that attracted me when I saw you last time. And the stucco product's important because I keep dealing with it. After all these years.
It's going to be around for a long time. It's a great product.
Yeah.
And if you go back through time a little bit, you're talking about moisture issues. Even shooting initially with plastics, 1970s, right? We came out with new plastic products. So let's put our home, put it in a sandwich bag of Visqueen, seal it, because its energy was a huge thing in the 70s.
Yeah.
And mold mildew issues.
We built crappy houses, but we tried to make them energy efficient.
We did. We did.
We did not build good houses in the 70s, folks. I'm sorry if you've got one of them, you know what I'm talking about.
And then you get to the 90s, and then we're putting insulation, which is non-permeable, with stucco and locking everything in.
Right.
Another round of issues.
Right. And a stucco, now, real stucco is a masonry product, and it sweats, and
It does.
moisture goes through it, just like brick, just like stone. Not enough that, it's almost like a little damp, sweaty on the backside. It's not like water's running through it, or it shouldn't be, I should say.
You put a sprinkler system directly on it, you'd
Yeah.
be surprised how
Yeah.
much water is
Yeah.
coming through it.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
cementitious material.
Yeah.
And by
that's
the way, when
correct.
we're talking about stucco, you're also talking about manufactured stone. If you think about how it's applied, basically it's,
Same
as
thing.
Joe Seabrook calls it, bumpy stucco.
Well, it's the same, or as a contractor says, it's the same thing, only different.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Exactly.
Right. And so whether it's air conditioning or the outside sheathing of a house, we're dealing with moisture on every house. I mean, moisture has been my life in remodeling.
Constantly.
One
We've
way or
gone
another.
from 1x4s with just a little bit of tar paper on it the last 100 years, because wood can get wet and dry over and over, no problem. But when it doesn't dry, then we came out with plywood, then we came out with OSB. OSB is a major issue in itself, the way it's made and the way it absorbs and holds moisture.
It loves moisture.
It does indeed. It does.
And mold loves it.
And, you know, Tamlin's been around a very long time, and we have expanded into a lot of areas. We just had our 50th anniversary
I
as
know,
a
yeah.
company,
I saw
May
that.
14th.
Yeah.
And it's come a long way from when Ron Sr. and his wife Jean borrowed $800 family money, 1971, and started
Wow.
this thing in the back of their house in Bel Air, Texas. You know, and we're still privately held by the sons now.
And they're still there,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and working every day.
still down in Houston.
Down in Houston, one of them is up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
Yes,
good.
we
That's
have a little
good.
satellite up there.
And so the big problem with stucco has always been that we went, now after World War II, they came up with EIFs, and they primarily in Europe and in England, as I recall. But it was when they were trying to repair these houses that were built out of stone. And so they developed this product that they could actually smear glue on the stone, put this product on there, and it actually helped the homes because it actually insulated them for the first time. And it would stay on there, and it didn't matter if water leaked behind it or not. It just didn't matter because it was going back to stone. But then we take that as someone says, hey, you know, I got a great idea. Let's do that on a wood-framed house. Let's see how that works.
Yes.
Nobody ever discussed or talked about the fact that the moisture got behind it. And they didn't, of course, they don't teach the trades anything. They just say, here, buy it. It's cheaper and faster.
And that's true for so many claddings.
so many
we do a lot
products.
with trims for fiber cement. We work with Hardy, Nietzsche, Allura, you know, engineered woods like LP. All of them have issues with it, not as acute most of the time as stucco, but the answer to all of it has been get an air gap behind the outer cladding.
Yes.
So that it can dry from the backside
Yeah.
as well as the front. So when the moisture is out there and the sun comes beating down and it's driving that into the house or the apartment or whatever it may be, you've got a hydrostatic gap. It's just an air gap that stops it dead.
So you have the second part of that that's super important is redundancy.
Very much
And,
so.
and one of the things that we found over the years is that it's still going to get, some amount of it's going to get there. And so we want a redundant. So I used to do 2 layers of paper. I do a layer of house wrap, and then I'd put a layer of black, like 15-pound felt
Correct.
on top of that.
Yeah.
And that would seem to solve a couple of things. And that was moisture getting through, but also it helped sort of stabilize that product. I'm talking about hard coat stucco, so that it didn't crack as much. It seemed like it really helped it with a little bit of that movement that you get in every building.
Yes.
Your products have all of that built into them. You don't have
Into
to go
one
to
single
those
unit.
in one unit. So
Yes.
explain, tell us, teach us. What
So-
you got, man?
What we got. Tamlin does a lot. You know, we have so many product lines. We've got all the trims you mentioned and everything. We've got in the water management. We do siding accessories. But when you get to that gap, you get into stucco, you get into the rain screens. We do everything from a flat commercial wrap. We've got a Tamlin wrap drainable, which makes a 1.5 mil beading on it, which provides some of that. And stucco, we go to a 6.3 rain screen, which is about 1/4 inch. And that provides enough of a gap, if you will, so that hydrostatic gap is there and it's wide enough that nothing's going to bridge it. And we've got proprietary spacers built into it so that when you put the guns to it on other types of cladding at 120 PSI, it doesn't flatten.
Doesn't blow
It
through,
holds.
yeah.
So when you're putting your lath on for stucco, when you're screwing that sucker in, it's still keeping that gap. It doesn't drop. And then we've got top and bottom vents, so you get a complete circulation system.
Right,
So it's much more effective.
Right, right.
And
And the
because the
venting is so
proprietor-
key.
It is. And the proprietary pieces allows it to dry cross and vertical.
Wow.
If you think about furring strips, which was the go-to,
That's what we had. That's
right?
what we had, yeah.
So a couple things about furring strips. Between the furring strips, that 15, 16 inches, fantastic. The furring strip itself is now a solid piece going back to the cladding. And your furring strip is not going to be the same expansion contraction on the weather change and temperature changes, so you wear out the wrap at that point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so your system is just sort of a sheet. I mean, it just is solid all the way through.
Solid all the way across.
Yeah,
Since
yeah.
the lath is solid, so when you're putting the plaster on, it's just a perfectly smooth finish. If you're putting up fiber cement or engineered wood, if you overdrive your nails, you get this with furring strips.
Right.
With ours, flush.
It stays flush. So, congratulations, by the way, because that to me is such a game changer. And the new homes that we're building, so many of them are contemporary in nature, which lends, and this is the product they want. They want a blend, at least a blend, a stucco or a flat finish type product. But the other thing is we're not using real wood anymore, as much. I guarantee you right now we're not. and so you guys have developed all sorts of products that work with things like Hardy and all these other products. Educate us on some of the things that you've got. And
Yes.
you brought some
I have
toys with you.
And for instance, we've talked a little bit about the water management side. We do exterior and interior extruded aluminum trims. So for interiors, as an example, you don't have to worry about weather issues for the most part.
So where would you use that on a finish
We
on a
do
house?
for drywall,
Uh-huh.
transition
Oh, yeah,
pieces,
yeah,
for
yeah.
bases, molding, millwork.
Yeah.
And some of the new trends coming out as an example.
With the little gaps and
Yes. So for the LED lighting, right? And for instance, we're as a country getting older now,
right.
right? We're getting younger, but the country's
Right,
getting older. So
They keep telling me to grow up, but
I hear you. So, for instance, what's gotten popular in the retirement home, something new and different, low light LED in a shadow base, so you light up the floor at nighttime on the way to the restroom, as an example.
wow.
I mean, it's
And
a
so
perfect use
you've developed a trim that lighting can go in.
Absolutely. We've got several trims that you can use LED with.
Very interesting.
And then we also paint. We match Hardy colors, Nietzsche, all the different colors. We got powder coat lines. We got wet coat lines for non-metallic. We anodize. We actually stock clear anodize and everything, but we've gotten into a lot of black anodize has gotten popular.
So your product line, it seems to me, just from my observation, and I really didn't learn a whole lot about you until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when I was doing a house that needed some of your product.
Yes.
And I bought some. You're welcome.
Thank you, Alex.
It was only one box, but it seems like your product line is really, really grown.
It has.
Rapidly.
We only have about 3,400 SKUs.
That's
Just
amazing.
saying.
Yeah.
And what I just talked about was the interior. Similar on the exterior side. We've got also the extruded trims, but every project, every remodel, by the way, remodeling has got a long future ahead. The average home in the U.S. is 40.3 years old. And there's a lot more of them than there used to be, and they're all needing attention.
Well, and I've utilized your products in remodeling, whether I knew I was or not. I mean, all the venting things, the little vent strips, things like that. A lot of that you all use. The sub
Ventilation's
would.
another area.
Yeah, right.
We do the old-fashioned soffit vents, but we also do continuous soffit vents.
And the continuous soffit vents is what we're using a lot.
Yes.
For energy efficient homes. We use a lot
Energy
of that.
efficiency, water management, keeping the moisture flowing out of the attics. There's just two schools of thought out there: the sealed systems and the breathable systems.
Right.
Both have places, if you will.
Well, and both have to be highly controlled. I mean, this is what we've learned. We've learned that if we seal up a house or let's just say a dwelling, a building, whatever it is, and we shoot foam on the walls, foam on the rafters, and we want to seal this whole thing and create this big old, I just call it a standing cave.
Yes.
And if we don't ventilate it properly or not ventilate it properly, that's where the problem begins.
Absolutely.
And again, it comes to moisture every
does.
time.
And along that line, all the extrusions and everything we do is based on a system that's code compliant for bulk water dispersal. Because water's always going to get behind the outer cladding in
Right,
some form or
right,
fashion. Right. So we want to make sure that is at least a system in place so a do-it-yourselfer as well as, a pro can make sure they can put a system up, they can have confidence it's going to last long-term for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
And then going with not only the trims, but as an example, another siding piece. So many times you have lap siding. People put vents, exhaust vents, air vents, directly on the lap siding, and they caulk all the way around it.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Isn't it though?
It's lovely.
So then you're depending
The
on
ants love it, the roaches love it, and the water loves it.
water. Just absolutely loves it. So we design a flat area that they can install.
A square vent.
Square vent. We've got all kind of sizes pre-done with these, but these are water managed. If you look at the side section, I don't know if we can see that here real well, but you have this angle, so it disperses water from.
Right.
You have weeps built into both sides, so no water comes over your product. You got a drip cap built in the base. You have a top section of slits underneath, so everything is shingle style protection.
So that vent is smarter than my truck.
It is. And when you talk about a vent, we do stainless steel vents. So you ever go to a nice, beautiful stucco layout and you look up there on the wall?
And there's dryer vents hanging off.
There is.
Yeah.
And then right next to that is a nice rust stain.
Yeah.
Nothing like,
Character.
aging
Well, the
prematurely.
builder tells the homeowners just character, live with it. It's if it doesn't have a little rust,
There you
it
go.
looks too new.
So, and in addition to all this stuff, all the exciting accessories and the interior stuff, the exterior, every project has things you don't plan for, you don't run into. So we do a lot of fabrication as well. We have a complete color flashing line. We can make anything you need, then we can paint it to color match everything else for the project.
Well, that's fantastic. So, do your contractors, can they go online and just mix and match and put things together and do all
Absolutely.
that, and then
Absolutely.
do they order it directly from you?
Tamlin only sells through distribution.
I see.
All right. So we deal with a lot of the big two-steppers. We deal with all the builder yards, all the supply houses, dealers.
Big box stores, I guess.
We are a vendor for Lowe's, so you can go to the Pro Desk and you can get any of the Tamlin products you want through the Pro Desk.
But your lumber yard can get them, of course. And then-
Absolutely.
yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I'm so pleased that you were able to come and be on the show with us today.
Well, I
It was really
appreciate that.
great. It was great. I love your products. I love family-owned businesses. I love to see them just really hit a home run. And you guys have done it through a lot of hard work and dedication.
A lot of hard work, and the owners are astute businessmen. They've allowed the Tamlin family to grow, and as a team, we are a family. And they've kept that value, the God and service and country. It's important.
Yeah,
It's how you live. And our motto, everybody's got a big, mission statement and so forth. Well, if you take a big mission statement, want to be a world-class supplier, quality building products, and I can go on for the whole statement. But if you break it down, we've got a statement that's doing it right matters. And that's what it really is all
Well,
about.
at the end of the day, that's what they all should mean at the end, right?
Yes, sir.
That should be the definition of however long that mission statement is. I used to tell my employees whenever they would get confused, I'd say, well, if you're confused, go read our mission statement. It'll tell you exactly what you need to know and how you need to act.
There you go.
And that's what they're for. Well, I really, really, really do appreciate it, and I'm very proud for the family and for Tamlin. So
Thank you,
thank you
Alex.
so much. Thanks for coming
We
on.
appreciate coming here
Sure,
and
sure.
enjoyed it.
We'll do it some more. We'll do it some
Absolutely.
more. Tom Ferret with Tamlin. And if you want to go on tamlin.com and you can see what they've got all kinds of fun stuff. Thank you so much for watching the show. Don't forget to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. We need your help. We want to get a bigger audience so we can do more things. Also, check us out on our LinkedIn at Remodel Revolution on LinkedIn. We need to get that audience built up. And follow us on Facebook. Like us. Tell us you love us. Send us questions. Send me an email if you have a question. Send it to me on Facebook or send it to alex@remodelrev.com. And until next week, this is Alex Guthrie signing off. Have a good, happy 4th of July. Hey, don't forget to follow us on all your social media. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe and share on YouTube. And check us out on all your social media platforms. Don't forget to watch Remodel Revolution on your smart TV, on Texas Weather Tracker TV, on Roku, Android, Apple, and Amazon TV, Sundays at 1 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional. You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.